Yeah, here we go. Remember, this is going to be unedited.
Yes, unedited.
Uncut and raw. Dun-na-na-na-na-na.
That was really good.
Thank you. I thought I'd throw in at least one fucking stupid thing at the beginning, so, because we can't edit it out. So here we are on a Wednesday in the podcasting Chloe's room.
Yeah.
I wonder if they can hear this behind my head.
The only reason we're here is because I just didn't want to get up.
The only reason we're here is because we're fucking Team Mystery. And we gotta do it.
We just high-fived.
Yeah, that was pretty weak, but I guess it would also be annoying on a recording. Something kinda, yeah, that's good. So... What? I'm Mario.
I'm Chloe.
This is Mystery Murdery Thingy.
Welcome.
Welcome. Welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome.
We talk about mysteries.
We talk about mysteries.
And murdery.
And thingies.
And thingies.
And mysteries.
And mysteries.
And then sometimes some murderies, too.
And sometimes some murderies.
Who...
I don't know why I'm just copying everything you're saying.
I feel like I stole that joke from Ben on last podcast on the left. You know, I don't know if you notice he does that a lot. Where he'll just, like, say, like, the exact same thing that Henry just said or Marcus just said. And then they just laugh about it. And be like, I've got a question. The thing that you just said, right back to you. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, cool.
So, I'm really excited.
Yeah.
About mine.
And I don't know what it is yet.
Not at all. But I still think you should go first.
That's what I was going to say, too.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to go first. Okay, so this is like kind of an emerging mystery. So
recent.
It's both very recent, but also started a long time ago. So
okay.
It's pretty cool. And what I think is that I'm going to do it right now, and then if something like major comes out about it, next week, next year, I mean, fuck, whenever, we find the other half of this mystery, then I'll do the second parter.
That'd be cool.
So it's just kind of a suspended kind of first parter, because this one is exceedingly mysterious.
Okay, I'm excited.
Yes. So I am doing the mystery of Joseph Newton Chandler III, so-called.
Is he royal? Is he royalty?
It kind of sounds like that, right?
Joseph Newton Chandler III.
No, not at all. Not that. But Joseph Newton Chandler III, I'm doing air quotes because you can't see me, did die in his bathroom in his apartment in Eastlake, Ohio on July 24th, 2002. He was 76 years old, and he died by suicide by shooting himself through the roof of his mouth.
Oh, God.
Looking himself in the mirror.
Oh, my God.
Boom, right through the back of his head.
That's fucked up.
Yeah. But before he did that, he snapped all the locks on his windows, all the locks on his doors. He also marked the day on his calendar. And most fucking bizarrely, he also shut off his air conditioning. Now, mind you, this is summer in California. It's very hot.
Ew.
And clearly he knew that his corpse was going to be rotting until they found it, which eventually did happen on July 30th. So it was in there for fucking 6 days. Yeah, almost a week.
Ew.
So his body was extremely badly decomposed when the police did eventually find it. So much so that they actually couldn't even get fingerprints off of his hands. It was just like fucking mush.
Ew.
Yeah, it was like like a bad melon that you open up and it's fucking gross inside. Just think about it. Picture it in your mind. No, that's really gross. Okay, I'm freaking myself out. Okay. So the man who was known as Joseph Newton Chandler III, Joseph Newton Chandler III. Joseph Newton Chandler III was most recently an electrical engineer and was also just a really, really fucking bizarre person. Like, eccentric is a very mild term to use. That was, like, one of the words that came up when I was reading about him. And that's, like, putting it fucking very lightly. He was a loner, apparently had few, if any, friends at all. Did not talk to anyone, just went in and did his job and went home. He was apparently extremely smart, according to his coworkers. He was, like, an engineer and a draftsman, so he was just, like, really, really, like, detail-oriented and, like, really, really smart. But, again, very strange. And one of the things that let people know that Joseph was a bit off was that he would sit for fucking hours and listen to radio noise. Like, the noise between the stations, yeah. Just,
What?
just enjoying a little, radio noise. Ooh, I like this part.
Oh my god. Oh, stop. That, like, gives me, like, that, like, freaks me out.
This man's fucking story, it's just like a David Lynch horror movie, like, come to life. It's like, oh my god, he's so freaky. Okay, so, yeah, just picture Mr. Joseph Newton Chandler III, so-called, sitting there just, like, smiling, just, like, listening to radio noise, like, oh, it's fucking creepy. So, another thing to let people know that Mr. Chandler was a bit off was that he once drove from Ohio to Maine. Now, that's 700 miles, 10-hour drive one way, to visit an LL Bean store.
What?
One particular LL Bean store in the state of Maine, because fucking who knows. But, and so you think that's weird. Okay, no. That's not even fucking weird. This is the weird part of that story. When he got there, there were no parking spaces open, so he just drove right back. Yeah. That's the weird part.
I just...
What? What the hell is wrong with you, Joe? Like, come on.
My mom does that when she goes to exercise.
If there's no parking spaces open, she just goes back.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't really want to go.
No, because it's, like, a lot of effort. She's, like, just doesn't want
She just doesn't like driving around a parking lot.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like that's probably, hopefully, the only thing in common between so-called Joseph Newton Chandler III and your mom.
Correct.
Good. Glad we agree on that. So, Joe's coworkers also said that he would just disappear for days, weeks at a time. Just off, exploring, doing his own shit. Whatever, we have no idea what he was doing. That's why this one is fucking so mysterious.
It's the weirdest one ever.
This may be the most mysterious one yet. Like, I truly think that. Except I can't remember all the fucking episodes we've done so far.
Toynbee Tiles.
Toynbee Tiles is very... But that one, we kind of got actually the answer to it almost.
Well, we found out who was doing them. We didn't find out what those weird messages meant.
That's true. That's very true.
And, Aunt Diane.
Episode 1. Yeah. What's wrong with Aunt Diane? An American car crash. Yeah. That's true. That one is really, really, really mysterious.
I think about that.
And there's one pretty recently, remember, that's kind of like it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a future episode, I think. Once more comes out about it.
I think about that a lot.
About Aunt Diane.
That case a lot, yep.
So yeah, y'all, if you haven't done it, go back, listen to episode 1. That's what we're talking about. Or you can
or watch the documentary.
Right.
Something's Wrong with Aunt Diane. It was free on YouTube. It's like 45 minutes.
It's really interesting. It's kind of confusing if I remember correctly, but the documentary...
The timeline is a little confusing, but it's a good documentary, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, getting back to Joseph Newton Chandler III, when he would get back from these jaunts, his little holidays, wherever Mr. Chandler would like to go, he would tell his co-workers that they are getting close.
Wait, what?
Yeah, just pondered what the hell does that mean? They are getting close. Yeah, who are they? What are they getting close
Was
to?
this man ever diagnosed with anything?
Probably. Again, I feel like there's a lot more to come out about this one, too. That's what, like, excites me about it as well. I want to get it, like, midstream.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. But, I mean, clearly there's many things wrong with this person. Or wrong, or dysfunctional, or I don't know. I don't want to, like... We don't know yet what actually is, like, why he's doing any of this crap.
I just want to say that there's this thing called Google Alerts.
Oh, yeah.
And you can, like, put in...
Right.
Well, I put in Golden State Killer.
Right.
So it'll, like, give me notification if there's, like, a story about...
Right.
With that contains those words.
Which this one did. Or the one I mostly got.
Is that how you got this?
Yeah, stop rubbing.
Sorry. Is that how you got this?
No. But the story about it that I mainly took from, I'll do my sources at the end, mentions the Golden State Killer. We'll see in just a second here.
Okay.
Excuse me. Boy. That's something I would normally edit out.
Coffee.
That was the coffee talking. So when Mr. Chandler, air quotes, pulled the trigger through the roof of his mouth and blew his fucking brains out, he did leave a few things, right, for the investigators after they found his badly, rotting, mushy, gross, disgusting corpse.
Got it.
One of those things was $82,000 in a bank account.
What?
Right. Hey, you don't got no friends. You're not going down to B-dubs and spending it on beer, right? You can just save it in your bank account. He also left behind a rental agreement on which he had listed that he had a sister named Mary Wilson who lived at a particular address. But when the police went to that address, it was a vacant lot. So... No, nothing really to see there. Clearly, it was all fake. The only other information that investigators had to go on was the official name, Joseph Newton Chandler III, the date of birth listed, and the social security number for the dead man. But when they traced that information, it didn't lead to this guy. It led to a little boy who had died in a car accident at the age of 8 on December 21st, 1945.
What?
In either Sherman or Weatherford, Texas. There's, like, different reports. One of the mysteries within the mystery. Where did this little boy even die? I don't even know.
Is this guy an alien?
Maybe he's a man in black. Last podcast on the left talking about men in black right now. That's a possibility. Alien, maybe. We'll get to the theories at the end. Because it's a mystery. Or because that's how I structured it. So, what Mr. Chandler also left behind was a pile of ashes. I'm doing air quotes about 1 billion times this episode, which you cannot see. Shouldn't have done it on that one. Was a pile of ashes because he was cremated, and a small medical sample from a medical procedure that he underwent in the year 2000. So investigators used that small medical sample, which had been, fairly well preserved. From that, they were able to isolate a usable DNA sample. So they did a DNA sequencing, and they checked it against, like, a bunch of DNA databases, criminal databases. But they didn't get any hits. So that was also a dead end. They then consulted an expert named Colleen Fitzpatrick, who used Y chromosome data to make a genealogical search, like they did with the Golden State Killer. That's where he comes in, that fucking bastard. Fuck him. So they basically used GED Match, that database, the same exact one that they used for the Golden State Killer, to find an ancestor of the dead man from the 1700s, whose last name was Nicholas. They then spent several years and worked with a different organization, or a private organization or something, I forget what it's called, to do genealogical research to identify Alpha and Silas Nichols, who lived in Indiana, I believe in like the mid to late 19th century. And from there, they found a living relative. Okay?
Okay.
And his name is Phil Nichols. And they brought a picture of the dead man to him and said, "Hey, do you know who this man is?" And he said, "Yes, that's my father." And then they knew who it was. They knew who Joseph Newton Chandler III, air quotes, actually was Robert Ivan Nichols. A completely different man who had been born on September 12th, 1926, and actually earned a Purple Heart as a firefighter
Oh, so
on the
this
USS.
was like an old dude.
Yeah, he was 76 years old when he died. If I didn't mention that at the beginning, I had it on my write-up. I should have. So yeah, he was 76 when he died in 2002. But back in World War II, he had worked as a firefighter on the USS Aaron Ward, which had been bombed by the Japanese, and he like got injured and received a Purple Heart. But when he got back to the States after the war, he actually burned his uniform. So what the fuck does that mean? I again, no idea. Mystery within a mystery. So he then got married in 1947 and had 3 sons. After that, he worked variously as, like I said before, a draftsman and an engineer over the next about 15 years until he left his family in 1964 and divorced his wife and told her that she would know why in due time. This guy's always saying, like, random cryptic shit. I don't know.
I'm so confused.
Like, confused about the story, or what?
No, just like,
this
guy's nuts.
I know, like, what is any... Yeah, exactly. Like, it's so fucking crazy. So he did keep in contact with his family at first, and briefly moved to Dearborn, Michigan, and worked in the car industry until he then moved to Richmond, California, the next year in 1965. And then he sent one letter to his parents and one letter to his son Phil, who would later positively identify him, containing 1 penny. He sent a letter to his son containing 1 penny. Yeah.
I want you to explain my face right now. I just, like...
Like, let's all just take a moment. Just ponder, what the fuck could that... Why? For what purpose? Is it some sort of symbol?
Is there in a specific year? What... Did they talk about that?
No, just... That was all it was. So, another mystery. Of many. So after that, he lived and reported to the IRS, that's kind of how we know, under his real name, Nichols, until 1976. And no one knows, again, why he then stole the identity of the little dead boy, Joseph Newton Chandler III. Or how he even, like, found out about him.
Yeah,
or,
what
like,
the hell?
Knew anything, like, to do this. Like, how did he even know, right? But, however, like, that, why or what?
There was a trigger in there somewhere.
Yeah, there's, like,
Something
some hidden
happened.
connection. Yeah. Find out. Let's figure it out. You do it, because we're busy people. And then he went to Rapid City, South Dakota. That's where he, like, stole the little boy's identity. Again, not sure why. From there, he requested Joseph Newton Chandler III's birth certificate through the mail, got it, and then applied for a Social Security card using that. Yeah. So this is basically the scheme that is detailed in, like, what's that movie?
You can't just get anybody's birth certificate.
At the time, I think you could. You could just, like, literally send a letter and get it. Because I remember in, what's that movie called? I can't think of it right now. Never mind. A part I would have edited out. Oh
my God.
This is raw, people. Come on. So after he did all that and, like, stole the identity, he then moved to the Cleveland area and lived and worked as Joseph Newton Chandler III for the rest of his life. He got laid off from his job in 1997. Not really much more is known about, like, him or what he did or anything. And just lived in, like, obscurity, completely friendless, as we talked about before, until he did commit suicide. And there were, like, you know, a lot of theories about who he was or why he did this. Like, clearly he was trying to cover something up. But what? You know? I think, you know, obviously the first thought is, was he a serial killer? You know, did he murder someone? 'Cause that's, like, I mean, why else would you just do that, right? What do you think, Chloe?
I have no idea.
Do you think is aliens your best guess right now?
I just think that he's crazy.
Yeah.
I just think there's some kind of disconnection somewhere.
In his mind.
In his mind, yeah.
Maybe.
But that is just...
Because I did read about... Remember we were talking about that one time, that weird, mental condition or whatever, where you, like, don't think that your family is your family. You, like, think they're, like, copies of themselves.
Oh, yeah.
Remember we talked about that? Maybe it was like that. He just, like, he had to get away from his family and, like, hide his identity because he thought they were, like, pod people who were going to kill him.
But that doesn't explain the suicide. It doesn't explain the pennies. It doesn't explain the other weird shit that he would just do.
But if you have that delusion, maybe there's, like, maybe that's, like, there's a comorbidity there with, like, some other kind of, like, psychosis or delusion.
I think he has some kind of specific delusion that's been going on for a long time, especially since you said... he was in the war.
True. And clearly something went on over there that, like, maybe was, like, the seed of this.
Yeah.
Because he burned, like, it mentioned that, like, on Wikipedia and the article I read, that he, like, burned his uniform after he got back. So, like, why? Like, what? Like, maybe something happened when that bomb went off. He got, like, some kind of brain injury that manifested a... mental condition, like, years later.
Maybe he, like, knows something that he's not supposed to know.
Maybe it has to do with,
and it's, like, driving him crazy.
Yeah, some kind of, like, occult knowledge or something.
Yeah.
Maybe he was abducted by aliens.
What was that, World War I?
World War II.
World War II. Some World War II secrets or some shit.
Right. He knew too much. I don't know. There are also people that think he could have been the Zodiac Killer. Because it, like, kind of matches up. Right, he lived in California. He like did this in, like, 1976.
Yeah.
He would be gone for days and weeks at a time, and he sort of kind of looks like the sketch. But the police at this point are basically saying, like, they can't confirm or disconfirm it. Like, there's not really anything to point them towards it or away from it. So it's, like, one of those things, like, but maybe that'll end up being it.
You know how all these DNA, like, stuff is coming out?
Yeah.
Do they have a sample of him?
The Zodiac Killer?
Yeah.
I've never heard of that. I feel like I probably would have, but that's a good question. I do not know. It's a mystery. Ooh,
what if they
mystery.
did?
Then presumably they could, if it was a good enough sample, get a Y chromosome analysis.
Can you imagine?
Yeah. It's gonna, like, be like fucking Minority Report someday, right? Like, we're just gonna, like, know future crimes. Like, I'll tell you what your grandchild's gonna do. Your grandchild's gonna be fucking nuts.
What?
Yeah, not really, though. Apparently, the U.S. Marshals are looking for tips. So if you know anything about who this fucking guy actually was or any of this, probably not, but hey, putting it out there, you know, give him a call, send him a text, hit him up on Snapchat, you know, swipe right on Tinder. However you want to get in contact with the U.S. Marshal Service to see, you know, if you got maybe some ideas. You know, flood them with stupid shit. I don't care. Not my responsibility. So anyway, I got my information for this mostly from a story by Kyle Swenson on the Washington Post. And that's how I found out about it. And then also a lot of stuff from the Wikipedia page, Joseph Newton Chandler III. And also by from a story by Chris Mosby on Patch, which is out of Cleveland, Ohio.
Yay.
And that's my mystery.
Okay, there's about to be a lot of noise because we need to switch.
Okay. Here. Prepare for the noise.
Well, maybe.
We're switching it up.
Sometimes you say there's like, oh, that's gonna like make so much noise, but then like I
Right.
listen back to it and it's like fine.
Yeah, I'm kind of, well, I wouldn't say anal because, like, it's still off my fucking phone and, like, you know, whatever.
That's our appeal.
We're a lo-fi podcast.
Yeah,
if you
we're
don't, you know,
a lo-fi podcast.
If you don't like it, still listen to us, please.
So,
if you give us money, we'll buy better equipment.
So I am going to talk about a thingy, and that it's not really a mystery, but it's a thingy. I'm going to talk about a cult.
We're supposed to talk about mysteries.
I'm going to talk about a cult.
Okay.
Called the...
a cult.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were saying a cult. Like the
No.
word occult. Okay, a cult.
About, called Yahweh Nation.
I have not heard of that. Okay. Let's get into it.
Mario...
It sounds fucking interesting.
Mario, get buckled. Strap your seatbelts in because we're gonna talk.
Let's do it.
So let's talk about... Okay, so actually what I did was this is me retelling the episode of People Investigates Cults on Investigation Discovery about Yahweh Nation.
Everyone loves the ID channel.
I figured out how to log on to it.
Ooh.
So now I can watch it anywhere, anytime. Anyway.
Anytime, anywhere, anyway, anyhow.
So this was a crazy-ass cult that was active in the late 70s, 80s, and ended maybe in the late 80s and early 90s.
Okay.
It was started by a man named Hulin Mitchell Jr.
Another junior.
Yep, another junior. He was born and raised in Kingfisher, Oklahoma. And he grew up in the 40s and the 50s. So during this time, he, experienced a lot of racism and...
Oh, so he was black.
Oh, yes, he was black. Yes, okay. That's very, really important. Okay. The main...
You're burying the lead here, Chloe.
The main thing about this cult is that...
there aren't that many black cult leaders.
They believe that that God was black and that black men are the superior, and we'll get into it.
Huh.
So he joined the civil rights movement and protested, and he saw all these things, and he ended up thinking he thought that black people needed their own religion to reflect their power and their glory. He wanted to be separate. He felt like we're going through so many things, so much unique problems that are present to us as African Americans in this time period, that we need something else.
Okay.
He was a captivating speaker. He was charismatic. He had the ability to manipulate the media. So he moves to Miami in 1976 and starts reading the Bible, changes his name to Ok Moshe, which means brother Moses in Hebrew. So this is where he settles down and starts a new religion. He calls it the Nation of Yahweh. So basically, he just thinks he's God.
Good for him. Everyone should have some self-confidence. I appreciate that.
That's how it basically starts. He changes his name later, again, to Yahweh ben Yahweh, which means son of God. So that's what I'll call him from now on, Yahweh, because he has 3 different names. We'll call him Yahweh ben Yahweh.
A holy trinity.
Yes.
Of names.
And during this documentary, they had, quotes and stuff from him.
Uh-huh.
And one of them is, "I'm the one the whole earth has been waiting on." And, crazy shit like that.
I am the X Factor.
Yeah. And also... He was... Sorry,
You're totally failing and covering up the fact that you're opening a new page.
And one was how I'm going to tell it in order, and the other was just the information that I got. Anyway.
I can tell you did a lot of research for this one.
I did do a lot of research for this. Yeah, black people needed their own religion to reflect their power and glory, blah, blah, blah. So... Like I said, he moved to Miami in 1976, and during this time, there was a lot of violence, a lot of drugs, a lot of racial tensions between citizens and the police. And it was also after 4 white police officers were acquitted of beating a black motorist to death. So there were riots and protests all the time. And so...
The more things change, the more things stay the same.
Yes. So basically what he did, he used the anger of the community to gain a following for his beliefs. So he believed that black people are the chosen people of the world, the real Jews of the Bible. He quoted Job 30:30. He talked about
What's Job 30:30?
I meant to look it up.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I know, it's yeah. Job 30:30, and he talks about, I think he said Revelations. There's one that like, there's like Revelations, and then there's not Resurrection.
But what do they say?
That basically that it's like evidence that God was black. So in Revelations chapter 1, it talks about how Jesus had like woolly hair, and Job 30:30 is, my skin turns black on me, and my bones burn with fever.
Okay.
Yeah. So that.
Yeah. So essentially, Black Jesus.
Black Jesus.
Black Jesus.
And that he is the real.
Cooler than white Jesus.
Way cooler than white Jesus. Anyway, except, this is a bad dude. Anyway.
Right, not this guy.
So, the beginnings of this cult. So Yahweh would preach to groups of people all over Miami as he started to gain more of a following. So he had classes. So I'm going to talk about a man named Khalil, who was a former follower of the Yahweh Nation, and he is like, it's kind of told through his point of view, the documentary. And in the beginning, there was these 3-hour classes that were done twice a week. And Khalil would take part in those classes. And what happened was, it was just him and Yahweh sitting and talking about their lives and their problems and this, that, and the other thing. And Khalil talks about his absent father. And Yahweh says, well, now you're my son. Don't worry about it anymore. So that is what, like, the hook was.
Yeah.
He was playing on people's weaknesses and doing shit like that all the time.
Typical cult behavior.
Yes. And by 1980, he had 200 members. So
he had 200 members out there.
So stop. So let's talk about Khalil. His mother died from breast cancer.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, when he was 19. Like I said, he kind of had like an absent father.
Right.
So he was also somebody else who was like down in their luck and really, really young, and he was looking for something else, some kind of concrete thing to hold on to.
Right.
Some answers. So he joined after one of these meetings with Yahweh.
Of
and
course.
After that, he like quit his job and everything. All he wanted to do was read the Bible and listen to the teachings of our main man Yahweh.
Mr. Yahweh ben Yahweh.
Yahweh ben Yahweh.
It's fun to say.
Yahweh ben Yahweh.
Yahweh ben Yahweh.
Yahweh ben Yahweh.
Yahweh ben
Yahweh ben Yahweh.
Is that what they would do? Like chant his name and shit?
They would say praise Yahweh.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Bullshit like that. So,
nice.
In June of 1980, Khalil married his girlfriend. And 3 months later, they were pregnant. And
they were both pregnant?
Yes.
Oh, it's a miracle.
It's like kind of weird when people say that.
Yeah.
Though. So,
yeah.
Yahweh made them give a home birth.
Ooh.
And stop reading. I hate when you do that.
Sorry, go on.
I hate it when you do that. I do that to you too, though. So
sorry, go on.
Basically what he gathered other women who were a part of who were his followers, and he called them midwives. But they weren't midwives. They didn't know anything. They had no medical training, no nothing. They didn't know what they were doing. They were learning from a handbook. But, I mean, the birth was successful, and he had a daughter.
Okay, good. I was, like, really afraid that there's something was going to go wrong.
It's just, like, an example of his power.
Right.
And
like
how
the total control he had over them.
and how it started early on.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go into how it expanded. Like most cults, donations were given.
Of course.
People started paying
You must give your
him,
tithe.
Give your tithe. It wasn't something that was mandatory, but it was something that was looked down upon if you didn't.
Sure.
Because you were receiving all of these things in return, supposedly, whatever.
Why would you be so ungrateful not to then give in return all your worldly possessions?
Yes.
So, a la Scientology.
So they eventually were making lots and lots of money. They bought an abandoned warehouse in December of 1980, and they called it the Temple of Love. So what they did was they renovated the whole place. It was like this kind of like this dump, and they built offices, and they call them offices because where the Temple of Love was located, it was in like a commercial zone, but these offices were basically bedrooms. It was an unsafe area, this neighborhood, lots of violent crime, drugs, but they cleaned up and renovated the Temple of Love until lots of their followers would be living there. People quit their jobs and lived full time at this temple. Initially, there were 40 to 50 full-time workers who lived there,
right.
And Khalil was one of them. They would publish pamphlets and spread the word, like, out on the streets, and I guess life in the beginning was pretty good. It was pretty simple. But one day a week, they had something called the Day of Atonement, which...
The Day of Atonement doesn't sound good.
It's not good.
I'm sensing that this is probably not a positive thing.
Not at all.
Am I correct in that?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Just making sure we're on the same page.
Yeah.
Although I'm not reading.
Yeah. The Day of Atonement is a 24-hour period of fasting. And that's just what you did. Other than that, you were just doing whatever it was you were told to do. And it usually had to do with cleaning up the place and renovating and all kinds of stuff. And spreading the word and doing this, that, and the other thing. Sure. During this time... Yahweh mandated men to be his security. So he basically, like, got together, chose, like, 10 of the, like, strongest men and asked them to be his guards. They were called the Circle of 10. They were his personal bodyguards, and each of them wielded stainless steel machetes.
What?
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
So they would just walk around with fucking machetes. It's not cool when I keep talking. It's bad.
Okay. It's cool in the sense that if
cool
it were
in the action movie sense.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. If it were like a Quentin Tarantino movie, it would be cool.
You'd be like, oh, that's pretty dope.
Oh,
yeah. That's how we keep things positive on this.
Right.
So, like I said, Khalil lived in the Temple of Love. And he was also a guard for Yahweh. One of the things that they did, this is what it was like. So in 1981, all of the men who weren't circumcised were forced to be circumcised. And they believed that Yahweh knew all and that God would take care of everything. So it's not like they, went to the hospital or anything.
They didn't get a rabbi to perform a bris on these fully grown men.
No. It was drop your pants. Khalil was part of the quote-unquote... He was already circumcised. So he was part of the quote-unquote circumcision team.
Yeah.
Fuck
Oh my
that.
fucking God.
Fuck that. So that was a huge test of loyalty.
Stupidity. No, I'm sorry. People aren't dumb for falling for these things. I shouldn't say that.
That's what's so scary about cults, is that anybody can fall for that.
That's exactly correct. Like, it does not depend on intelligence or upbringing or prior station. Like, any fucking... You could do it. I could be taken in by a cult. You could be... Any person listening to this could be taken in by a cult. And do what last podcast on the left says. If you think that you are in a cult, just take 1 second and say, check please, and walk
Check,
the
please.
fuck out that door. And you get out of that cult.
Yes.
So, yeah.
If you're paying obscene amounts of money for something that's not tangible...
Right. If they want to separate you from your family and not let you contact them.
See, me and my mom were talking about what defines a cult. And then I said, it's a cult if they don't let you leave.
Right.
That's like the line for me.
Right.
If you don't have your own freedom...
And think about all the cults that you can think of. Is that not true of any of those? I mean, Jonestown, right? Scientology.
Yeah.
Like, the family. You know, like, these are...
Yeah.
You have... Yes, a necessary part of a cult is that you separate the people.
Yes.
Because once you separate them, you get them into ritualistic practice. And that's how you control them. Or... And maybe you use drugs, you know, like Charles Manson did. So, yeah, definitely.
So, furthermore, in order to assert his dominance, he would do stupid... Like, this reminded me of Jim Jones. He would, like, make his own assassinations and all that kind of bullshit. Stupid motherfucker. He makes my skin boil.
Right.
Anyway, moving on from that douchebag.
Right.
So, Yahweh did the same thing. So, during a ceremony, just a regular day of preaching, a random guy comes up and challenges Yahweh ben Yahweh. He challenges his teachings. And Yahweh responded, and I have this quote, "Are you some kind of fool? You have to argue with the books when you're in my presence." So they had this, like, Bible off and stuff. And so, again, what's his face? Yahweh ben Yahweh.
Old Mr. What's his face?
Well, it's because I was writing this as the documentary was going on, and some of it says Okmoshe.
Yeah.
Okmoshe, and some of it says Yahweh ben Yahweh.
Cool.
But we're calling him YBY. He quotes Job, and it's quote, "Gird up now like the lions of a man, put his hand..." Yeah, that's what it says. "Gird up now like the lions, loins of a man."
You know, all
gird
those,
up like the loins of a man. I totally read that wrong.
Yeah,
After that, he, like, puts his hand out on the guy's forehead, and the guy drops to the floor.
Another typical cult behavior.
And they're like, "Oh, everybody's like, oh, la, la, la," and just like that. And
praise be to Yahweh ben Yahweh.
Praise Yahweh.
Ooh, he's so good. He pushed that man down.
Yes,
Ooh,
Yahweh.
He must be the God.
Shit like that. So obviously it was just some stupid, elaborate scheme, some setup.
A hoax.
But it showed his followers that he supposedly had this true power. It brought his followers closer to his teachings.
Right.
So as he gained more popularity, there's always the haters. So a group of people.
Shake it off.
Shake it out. Okay, no, we're not going into that. A group of people began to question his teachings. He called them the hypocrites.
Also reminds me of Jonestown.
Yep. So the leader of the hypocrites, his name was Carlton Carey. Basically, he thought Yahweh ben Yahweh was going too far with all of his teachings. So he officially leaves in 1981 after being in it for 2 years. He takes along his family, his wife and kids, a man named Ashton Green, who I think is his cousin, if I remember correctly, but I could be wrong, and 13 other followers. All of them left. And what they did was they created a new Yahweh temple across town. This was bad. This pissed
Why does this happen
off
every single time
Yahweh
anything
Yahweh.
cultish or religious
Because
ever gets formed?
They still have that belief, you know?
Right.
But
it's like they're trying to recapture the essence of the purity of how it began.
Yes.
But I think what they're missing is that never existed in the first place.
Exactly. So, in November 14th of 1981...
That's my birthday. I mean, 5 years after that, but yeah.
Yeah. Ashton Green comes back to the Temple of Love, demanding to speak with Yahweh ben Yahweh. He's like, dude, we gotta talk. Let's settle this. Let's talk. And our friend Khalil, he was there at
Oh, hey, Khalil.
Yep, Khalil. He was there at the time when Ashton Green came to him. And he's like, okay, well, let me go get some, like, my superior to, help because Yahweh actually wasn't on the premises. Like, he wasn't there. And then came along top bitch Enoch Israel. Enoch Israel was the, number one security guard. He was, like, the head of the Circle of 10. What happened was Enoch and the other guards ended up beating Ashton with a hammer until he was barely alive. They brought out their car, threw him in a trunk, and they took him out to the Everglades, where he was eventually found beheaded. Fuck is right. When the rest of the temple heard about this, rest of the community, it was followed with joy. And it was followed with joy because Yahweh was all like, God is helping us kill our enemies. He was like, this person is in the way of what we're trying to accomplish, and God has helped us out in this case.
Yeah. No.
So, furthermore, Carlton Carey and Mildred Banks, Carlton Carey being the leader of the quote-unquote hypocrites, and Mildred Banks, who is also one of the former members, they make a statement to police about who they think committed the murder. Mm-hmm. Yahweh found out about this and was not happy. What ended up happening was he got his Circle of 10 to attack at their home. Carlton Carey was shot and killed, and Mildred was shot, then hit with a machete, and she barely survives.
Ooh.
They say that if, with the machete, if the blade had gone, an inch more, it would have, cut off her jugular, and she would have been dead.
Ooh.
But she ended up making a full recovery.
Wow.
So she was put into witness protection, and her identity was changed. So, basically, they got away with a lot of crime, which, again, further certifies that Yahweh ben Yahweh is God. Because of the murders, none of his followers would speak out against him because they saw what happened.
Right.
And that's what made it so hard to take legal action.
Mm-hmm.
So as the congregation expanded, so did the money. At this point, they were getting tens of thousands of dollars a month. So they bought hotels, supermarkets, apartment buildings, even schools. That's how they expanded.
What?
So, back to Khalil. In 1983, he was one of 83 disciples sent out all over the place to make new temples and to gain new followers. Khalil was only 23 at the time. So, Yahweh sent him out. I think he said New Orleans or Norton or something I couldn't understand what he was saying.
Oh, this was in that documentary.
In the documentary,
okay.
Yeah. But he went out to a different city. He ended up gaining about 40 to 50 people, despite being there on his own with just a box of pamphlets and really nothing else.
Wow.
During this time, he was kind of the overseer of this little office and his followers and stuff.
Mr. Manager.
Mr. Manager. During this time, though, he was away from Yahweh, and he was also away from his wife. So he lived a year in, like, freedom. And this is the 80s, and he's in the city. And that's when he realizes that this isn't life. Like, I want to leave.
Right. Again, you must isolate people in order to control them.
And at this point, he wasn't isolated anymore.
You let them out, they always have the chance. Just like in Jonestown, when they sent the kids out, they have the chance to see how other people live, and it's like, oh, fuck, I'm in a cult.
Yeah.
Check, please.
So, when he was eventually called back to Miami, his relationship with his wife changed. Mm-hmm. Yahweh treated him differently as well. It was almost as though he was rejected. Mm. So, back at the temple, in 1985, a quota was implemented. So his followers had to go out daily and make $10. If they failed, they were forced to kneel for hours in a place called the Room of Understanding.
Oh my
on a concrete floor. And there were guards watching, and they would hit you with a stick if you weren't straight enough. So this is also a common form of torture in third world countries.
Right. Yeah, you can literally break your knees. Like, your kneecap, you know how hard your kneecap is? Mm-hmm. You can literally break your kneecap.
That's messed up.
From doing that.
That's so fucked up.
Yeah.
So, during this time, they were also continued to buy real estate. They bought old drug houses, and they bought rundown apartments, and they cleaned up and expanded the area. So that was kind of their, to the outside world, oh, look what they're doing. Like, that's so good. Like, thank you for helping us out, and blah, blah, blah.
Wow.
By 1985, Khalil was like, I'm out. So, what happened was the last straw was that he didn't make his quota one day. And he had to go to the Room of Understanding and was like, nah, fuck this. He started to question everything. Mm-hmm. And they talk about in the documentary, they said the Room of Understanding was supposed to be a punishment, but for Khalil, it was like an epiphany. Mm. It did the opposite and made him be like, oh, this is fucked up. I need to leave. Instead of, I'm being bad, I need to stay. So like I said, he left in 85. His wife stayed in the temple while he left, and he also planned to come back for his kids later. He had a daughter and a son by now. So he went back to live with his dad, who was still as bitter and mean-spirited and unaffectionate as he was before, but he let him stay with him until he got back on his feet. So they're expanding, buying real estate. The cult bought an occupied apartment in 1986 in Opelika, Florida, and it was like an apartment building. There were already people in it. They threw everybody out. They basically made people homeless. They threw tenants out of their homes. There was no advance notice, no mercy, no nothing. A man named Anthony Brown was like, the fuck is this bullshit? And he's one of the tenants there who was being kicked out. He spoke out publicly against the Yahweh Nation. And death angels, the bodyguards that were sent out to commit most of the crimes, that's what they called them, death angels, ended up killing Anthony Brown and Rudolph Roussard.
I thought that might be coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So killed 2 more people.
Yeah.
So they found like the guy cowering in like some field. His name's Robert Rozier. He's the one who murdered Anthony and Rudolph, and he was on the like inner circle of Yahweh ben Yahweh and his followers. And he talked to the police, and he confessed to killing 7 people. 6 for Yahweh and 1 for himself. Yeah.
That's pretty fucked up.
So Khalil, he's gone. He starts talking to other former members who have also left. And he talks about how it's kind of like this puzzle, and they start realizing other shit that was going on that they had no idea about. He hears more stories, finds out more stuff. He learned about something called the midwife classes. The midwife classes were just the women. There were no men around. It ranged from giving exams to each other, or a woman putting her mouth on another girl's vagina to give CPR to the unborn child. That was the logic there.
Okay.
Which is so fucked up.
That's very strange.
And like I said, they had a lot of quotes. Quote, "How many of the sisters would mind having the king's seed?" He started having sex with all of the women in the cult.
Typical cult behavior.
Typical.
Yes, very typical.
This expanded. He started sexually abusing children as young as 12 years old.
Not unheard of in cult behavior as well.
Yep. And after hearing about all of this, and being worried about his daughter that's still there, Khalil went to the FBI and he was like, "Y'all gotta figure this out." The FBI investigator, his name is Herb Cousins.
Okay.
And so that's the person that ended up taking over, and they had to keep it a secret at first. Obviously because of the danger.
Right.
So while all of this was happening, the organization was actually gaining more followers because Yahweh Ben Yahweh was amazing with PR. He knew how to twist a story. He lied to the media straight up all the time. Over time, he was accepted as a great member of the community, and even the mayor gave him a key to the city. October 7th, 1990 was declared Yahweh Ben Yahweh Day.
Oh my fucking God.
And once the murders came out and Robert Rozier's name came out and he was a follower, Yahweh Ben Yahweh publicly excommunicated Rozier. It just to make himself look good.
Right.
So because of this, Rozier started talking. He told the police everything. He told them how they were making millions of dollars and how they used extortion, murder, and arson to keep people in line. And at that point, what does that mean?
It's fine.
Okay. At that point, they had enough to go in for an arrest. So in 1990, police surrounded the Montelay Hotel in New Orleans where Yahweh is staying with heavily armed guards. So what ended up happening was Herb talked to Yahweh into giving himself up. So it was kind of one by one. So he started with the bodyguards. The bodyguards are forced to disarm and to surrender one by one before he was forced to leave the room with his hands up, and then he was arrested. After that, they coordinated a multi-city sting operation to arrest the other followers who had committed crimes. Khalil is the first witness to testify at Yahweh Ben Yahweh's trial. Because of this, he receives threats on his life, and he also goes into witness protection program with his daughters. In the end, 13 people are arrested and charged with murder, extortion, and a firebomb attack. Yahweh and 15 of his members are indicted on 14 counts of murder, 2 attempted murders, racketeering, arson, and extortion. In 1992, Yahweh Ben Yahweh and 6 followers were officially found guilty and sent to prison. He was convicted of conspiracy to commit murder and sentenced to 18 years. He served 11 and then was paroled. Yeah, explain that shit to me.
Yeah, justice system's not perfect.
And he died of prostate cancer in 2007? 2000? Who fucking cares? He's dead.
He dead now.
He's dead. But yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Really.
Did not actually end up being God.
You think?
Couldn't have guessed that at the beginning.
At its peak, the Nation of Yahweh had approximately 20,000 followers spread over 45 cities.
Shit.
And overall, their assets were estimated to be that of $250 million.
Jesus. Yeah, well, you know, cults work in a sense in order to, you know, steal people's money and force them to commit horrible crimes. You know, if that's the point of them, then I guess they worked pretty well.
It's sad, right?
Oh, very sad.
But I highly recommend that program.
The
People Investigates Cults.
Oh, right.
It's good.
Right. So was that was your main source? Did you have any others?
Nope.
Cool. All there.
Okay, weird shit.
Some
weird shit in the news. Weird shit in the news.
Weird.
What?
Shit.
Wicca now word.
In the news.
So mine is a story from Time Magazine. A road in Australia melted and destroyed drivers' tires. So apparently what happened was there was this particular like road. They had just laid down the whatever fucking, what's that shit called? The asphalt?
Yes.
Yeah, that shit. It just laid down I love it. The asphalt, but it like rained soon afterwards. So they like the gravel layer underneath it didn't settle properly, and then it got really, really hot. So the asphalt like literally melted, and over 50 people's cars had their tires coated in asphalt. And they're totally fucked up and will not ever work again, including a semi with over 30 tires coated in like a foot of melted asphalt.
Oh, ew.
Yeah, it's pretty
That's
crazy.
messed up. So are they going to get paid?
Yeah. The government's going to compensate them. Probably the state or whoever like decided, whatever. And then, you know, obviously, the good shit in the news this week. I mean, everybody's fucking following it. The Thai boys are home! And their coach. So they were saved, all 12. It just came out.
13. Oh, 12 plus
12 boys plus the 25-year-old coach.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is the feel-good story of the year, if not, like, the decade. That'll be remembered forever. When is the movie coming out? Right?
I read a tweet that talked about, there's gonna be a movie, and Scarlett Johansson is gonna be cast as one of the Thai boys.
That's funny. I hope the Thai boys and their coach get to play themselves in the movie, which I think would be pretty cool.
Like that one movie.
Yeah. What's it called?
It was like an
Paris.
attack.
The Da Paris. I saw it in theaters. It was really good.
I wanted to see that.
Yeah, I thought the guys did a pretty good job.
Good.
For like not being. I mean, one of them I think is like an actor, but I don't think the other two are at all. Anyway, that's my weird and good shit.
Okay, I've got a weird shit. I got a stupid.
Do you take a lot of weird shits?
Yeah, man. Don't you?
Sometimes. Sometimes. I mean, maybe we could do a segment. You know, Mario and Chloe's stool samples. Anyway, go on.
One of the weird shits that I was gonna do, but I thought it was just kind of stupid, was that Elon Musk
dare to be stupid.
Elon Musk made like a little submarine,
right?
But they were like, "No thanks." He's
yeah.
like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna leave it here just in case you guys want to use it."
Elon Musk, you gotta horn your shit into everything. Come on.
Okay.
Why don't you work on your Tesla production line, dude?
So my real weird shit in the news is that a burglar breaks in to an escape room and he can't get out, so he calls 911.
What?
Yeah.
World's dumbest criminals.
It happened in Vancouver, Washington, and it was in a place called the NW Escape Experience. He reportedly took a cell phone, TV remote, and a beer from the fridge prior to calling authorities. The sheriff said, quote, the sheriff said he had a burrito and he was settling in to have breakfast and a beer, I guess, and then got scared because he couldn't get out. Rob Bertram, owner of NW Escape, said.
I believe him. Seems like a credible guy.
Like, come on, man.
Yeah, that's pretty dumb. So, yeah. It's like that, remember that, hearing about that cop? You can, like, look up the 911 call on YouTube, who he, like, smoked pot for the first time or ate a
I
pot
thought it was
brownie.
2 of them.
Or something like that, and he, like, thinks he's gonna die.
Yeah.
So he, like, calls the cops on himself. It's pretty stupid.
What a guy.
What a guy. Thank you so much for listening to us talk about mysteries.
Yeah, thank you.
Mysteries.
Keep listening. Tell all your friends.
Tell your friends, please. Yes, we so appreciate it. Oh, we have an Instagram page that Chloe's put some pictures on, so you can check that out. Check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/mysterymurdery thingy. Start a movement to give us money. We would love it. So yeah, I think we're probably done, right? Is that it? We done?
Signing out.
Yeah, we're still looking for a sign-out tag, right?
We don't need one.
We don't fucking need it.
Okay, bye.
We just ramble at the end until we say bye.